This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories, and welcome to my review of the most recent Star Wars novel, Inquisitor: Rise of the Red Blade. And to be fully honest, this is probably the worst Star Wars novel I've ever read. The character was just extremely unlikable, and I just really did not like her. It's also a very big, misleading title where it says it's about the Inquisitors, but doesn't even start looking at them until at least two-thirds of the book has been finished. And even when it does, it's just more focusing on this main character who is definitely the most least interesting of the Inquisitors, and is a character we already know the fate of since she was killed in one of the Darth Vader comics, which is recounted in the epilogue to this. And they skip over what they say is years of events which are just more interesting than this character who was mainly set during the Clone Wars era, but she was basically doing nothing for almost the entire novel. It was just, I mean, it wasn't even just the events that she was impersonated because the events themselves were at least kind of interesting. But the character, I just really didn't feel any connection to her. I don't think she was written really well. And thing is, I basically agreed with what she had to do when she destroyed the droid factory, but I feel like the character was just so annoying that even though I agreed with her reasoning for having to destroy it and her not knowing, all the information because she wasn't given all of it, and she made the best possible decision with the things she was told about this mission in the moment, she was just so annoying about it that I wanted to disagree with her, even though that probably was the best decision that she could have made in a time of war. Not a decision that a Jedi should make, but something that someone in military would probably make, especially if they didn't know there were civilians nearby. And honestly, the biggest problem with this is the main character. There are some really good and interesting moments. I love the part where Palpatine is just being Palpatine and trying to manipulate her. And once she joins Inquisitorius, I think that she is not as bad, but she's just a character that really wasn't too interesting. And honestly, if I didn't pay 99 cents for this, I probably would have just got a refund because I would not have wanted to spend all my money on this. But I got really lucky on the day it came out. There was an Audible sale for me where I got 3 months for $1 for each month. And I knew this came out, and I got the book. And even though I started and I was like, this book is really bad, just from the start, because I've generally been enjoying all the Star Wars books that I've read. This is so far the only Star Wars book that I've read because there's a few that I've mainly avoided, mainly the one that just made to fill in the plot holes of Rise of Skywalker. But yeah, every Star Wars novel I've read, I've had some kind of enjoyment, and mainly enjoyed more than I disliked it. But this one, I just thought it was just such a bad book, And as I said, the only really likable parts is just a few small things. And our look into the Inquisitorius is pretty interesting. And honestly, as I was saying, the most interesting parts are the ones that really aren't involved with the main character, but look at the events around her and how the galaxy works as a whole, and to also confirm that Mace Windu was just not a likable person, and he loves pushing people towards the dark side with how just unlikable he is as a person. And besides that, the interesting things really were how Order 66 was working, and there were special orders to spare certain people. See how Inquisitors were made and turned to the dark side, and to get a basically audio version of the Darth Vader comic where this character dies. And honestly, I feel like the author might have been self inserting into this and just a little too much. Because I did listen to the audiobook, which is kind of obvious because it's talking about the audio book coming from Audible. But the thing is, I was just listening to it, and there was no way I think I would have finished this if I had the physical copy because this book was just really hard to get through that. And the only reason I really got into it is because I was playing the game of Monopoly at the time and wanted something else to do while I was doing it. And yeah, honestly, I'm just glad I'm done with it. As I said, it's probably the worst Star Wars novel I've ever read. It's not as bad as some stuff like the sequel trilogy, especially episodes 8 and 9, and it's not as bad as the Han Solo moment from Solo. But so this is a really bad book, and I do not recommend to read it. And yeah, honestly, that's really all I have to say about it. Please, just go read literally any other Star Wars novel besides potentially the one that's just trying to fill in the plot holes from Rise of Skywalker. Because again, I'm just avoiding that book because I just know I'm not gonna like it, and it's just trying to fill in plot holes. But this one, I had a lot of pretty good expectations for it. I thought it could have been a really cool one, but it just feels like the author might have been also trying to, as I said before, just kind of put themselves a little too much into it. And I kind of want to look at one final thing before we finish up, which is Tolkien's quote about allegory. I'm not going to quote it directly. I kind of want to do a video about it on its own. Not sure when I'll do it, but it's something I do want to talk about in more detail. But the basics of it is that a story needs to be applicable and not allegorical, at least in Tolkien's opinion, for it to be good. And I generally do agree where it's allegorical, it's being fit into a certain perspective, and you have to see it that way, at least according to the author. And when it's applicable, you can really just see it in any way. And with this novel starting out with the author talking about her attempted suicide and making sure you knew this was part of the book, I just feel like that might have just been something that also put me a little off because it feels like it was very self inserted and I don't know, it was just, I just really didn't enjoy this novel, even if that part wasn't there, and I didn't know that a character was going to be, well, taking their own life in this. I still really wouldn't have liked it because I completely forgot about that when I was reading most of it until I just got back to here. And yeah, honestly, just please just go read any other Star Wars novel with the exception of the one I mentioned, because I'm pretty sure that's gonna be a lot worse than this because it's just filling in plot holes. But yeah, I just want to know what you think about this book. Did you read it? Did you not? Let me know in the comments. Yeah, see you on the next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.